Literally just hoping for the best here. My name is Vero, this is Vero Reads, and hello! I am coming at you from a different angle, very barren background and very disheveled appearance, because if I don't film this video now, I'm not gonna film it. I'm also like rushing because I need to be done in like half an hour, hopefully, probably less. Well, we'll see. Today I want to share with you my September wrap up. I read 10 books in September. That's a lot. For me, that's a lot. I tend to read something like 3-4 books. Like 4 books is a good month for me, like a good high average. So 10 books, like I was on holiday for a week, and also let's all remember that most of my books are less than 300 pages. I really like short books. So first book, Dengue Boy, talked about it. Bad start to the month, very bad start to the month, because I really didn't like it. I've talked about it before in another video, I don't remember which one. My mood ring book tag video. So it was supposed to be a speculative fiction about the dangers of uber capitalism and how much we've destroyed the planet and what is it doing to the earth, but also humans and etc. And it gave me nothing. Like, maybe somebody else enjoyed it. It was not doing what it was trying to do. It's weird because I'm usually very, like, much more mild with my reviews, but because I'm in a hurry, I'm just, let's do it, let's say it. It was very mid. It was trying really hard to be on the same level as other very famous Argentinian authors, and it didn't deliver, in my opinion. Really, really rough start to the month. And then the second book I read, though, was Silas Marner by George Eliot. I was reading that for my book club, the Short Classics book club, and also because I was getting a head start on Victober, because I'm already so stressed. I started in September with the Victober books to read them, and I'm still very stressed because I'm not reading what I was planning. Well, anyway, that's another tangent I don't have time for. But Silas Marner, loved it. I realized that it wasn't the first book I read by George Eliot. Another book I read by her was Brother Jacob, I think that is the name, and I love that one and I love this one for kind of the same reason. It's just that the characters just feel so vivid, and they really are brought to life. It really felt like I was in the room, whenever something was happening. And it's just the narrative style I really liked, and also the topics of... Also, there's something going on with the lighting. I think it's just my phone sucks, and usually I use natural lighting, but it's late at night. But anyway, I don't have time for these tangents. Stop it. Anyway, Silas Marner, really great. I love the characters. The idea I had coming in was that the main focus would be this relationship between the titular character and a child, but in reality it was just like a nice story about village life and how community builds happiness in a very real, very simple but masterful way. Then another hit, The Witch Would Not by Olivia Atwater. Amazing new author to check out. I want to read all of her other books now, because this is a book that delivered. This delivered so hard. It was the story of this governess in the 1800s that gets called to deal with a house that's not super cool, very spooky, very gothic. And I do believe that this book paid a great homage to the governess novel, the Victorian novel, the gothic novel, the fantasy novel in such a beautiful way, while still being very its own thing. Very engaging characters, very strong and compelling. There was good morally grey character representation, because I've been reading some books lately where they say the character is morally grey, and it's just like they're doing bad things, and that's it. A good morally grey character is it needs to be very vibrant. It needs to be very real and understandable. And The Witch would not truly delivered on the moral grey character, and truly delivered on the enemies to lover. Like, I thought I really wasn't a fan of enemies to lover. I didn't know going in that this was an enemies to lover side romance. And it really did deliver. Again, after that, an audiobook. Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. Loved it. A lot of people told me they found it very slow. I was listening to it, which might say something about my enjoyment level. But yeah, I was listening to it and I was just following along with the adventures of this old lady that lives in a rural, it's not even village, like in a rural, lonesome area of Poland. And this book is part of a movement which I discovered later that is called ecofeminism, because the main character talks a lot about, you know, animals' rights and how to take care of the earth, and the fact that you know, she's really angry and appalled and doesn't understand how people can just mistreat the earth and think that it makes sense. Like, I really related, because she was mainly angry and baffled. You know what I love this book is because I will be that old lady in, like, how if I reach that age, I will be like that probably. Really liked it. Really recommend it, unless you're really not in the mood for a slow, very literary fiction book, which fair enough. Then of course, you know, hit after hit after hit, something that didn't hit that much, and it was The Lamb by Lucy Rose. I heard of this book on TikTok, mainly BookTok, and I found it on NetGalley. It is like the definition of literary fiction. The language is much more important than what's happening. This book was amazingly written, but in my opinion, this is an opinion, it's not a fact, it didn't have a lot of substance. Great, very visceral imagery that was not saying anything as strong as the actual imagery it was using. And like, I'm happy to be proven wrong. I'm really happy to be proven wrong. But if somebody were to ask me about the themes of this story, I would have to like come up with something. They're not immediate, and the themes that I have seen, they're very like tepid and they're very superficial. But that's why it didn't really hit that much. But you know, like the words on the page gave me a really visceral reaction. So there's mastery in that. It just needs to be like, for me to enjoy a book, there needs to be something behind the words. After that, and here we are starting with our actually like books we have, is Spirits Abroad by Zen Cho. Another favorite new author. I want to read everything by her. Short story collection. I've mentioned this short story collection for a couple of times because I don't read that many short story collections, and so it was it took me a long time to read it. But like the Malaysian folklore, which I had no reference of, I had no idea about, I have no knowledge of. I just love it now. I want to read so much more about it, and just this is such a good book that I don't know what to say about it. I just want everybody to read it. Short stories, some set in the UK, some set in Malaysia, some set in a distant, undefined place or time. The themes are identity, self-discovery, family as a place to bloom, but also a place to escape. Oh, this book is so good. Queerness, exploration of queerness in a place that is both heavily heteronormative, but also in such a colonial, acquired way that the heteronormativity is very arbitrary. So funny. This is just such a great book. You just read it, please read it, please. There you go. After that, I read Death and the Conjurer by Tom Mead. I think my issue is that I don't like Agatha Christie style murder mysteries. I really like the setup, and then the solving of the mystery. It might be that I just don't get it, or that I haven't read enough murder mystery, but it always feels so self-referential, as in it is the author talking to the reader, being like, did you get it? Instead of it being a book that's a story of its own, the characters are real. It literally feels like the author and the reader playing chess, which I don't read murder mysteries for that reason. I want to see the mystery. I like it as a plot, as a mystery, as a, you know, characters going through stuff. So if it is literally just like the author trying to best me, I'm not trying to best the author, so I always feel like I'm not on the same page as the author is. And I've had that with so many murder mysteries, this one included. And so because of that, I don't think that I can say a lot about this book, because it wasn't a bad book. I really like the element of the detective being a magician, and the whole use of misdirection, etc. I really like that. But again, it didn't stand on its own two legs, because it was the author talking to me. It wasn't this character talking to me. So it didn't feel very real. But in all honesty, I might read some more just to understand what I'm missing, and if I just don't vibe with the genre, or if it's that I just need to look at it in a different way. Then I read The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong, and I really liked it. And it talks about this fantasy world, classic medieval D&D style, Lord of the Rings style world, but there is what's so refreshing about this book is that this is fantasy UK, and the protagonist comes from fantasy East Asia, and has been brought when she was a very young child to fantasy UK. I'm saying this because I don't actually remember the names of the places, but it clearly, very clearly, metaphor for, you know, the immigrant experience, but in a fantasy setting, which I freaking love. So cool. And so she has that very real immigrant feeling of, I've left something behind that is not mine anymore, but it's still within me. It's just that I don't have access to it. And also found family, great elements of found family, very in the style of cozy fantasy and also very in the style of a D&D quest, where you kind of like reach your companions, the other adventurers in your party on your journey, and then you just keep them because they make your life better. It's very much that great plot weaving. I really like the element of telling the small fortunes and the reflection the protagonist has on whether they are true because she's telling them, like, you know, the self-fulfilling prophecy type of thing. And it's just a really nice cozy fantasy that I would highly recommend. After that, I read Flatland for Victober, which is a Victorian satire written by Abbott. It's very hard to explain what Flatland is. Satire novella, very short, about this character called A Square, because he is a square. He lives in Flatland, which is a two-dimensional land. I'm not gonna explain the whole of Flatland because it's also very brainy. Like, there's a lot of geometry. But basically it's divided in two parts. The first part describes Flatland and how it works and how also it mirrors Victorian society. The second part is much more abstract, and it talks about this character, Square, finding the reign of Line Land, which is a one-dimensional land on a line, so they only are aware of one dimension, which is length, and how he tries to make the people in Lineland understand that there's another dimension, a second dimension, and then somebody from the third dimension, a sphere, comes and tries to make the Square aware of the fact that there is three dimensions. And the Square is like, oh my god, there are, wow, I was so ignorant. So surely there should be a fourth dimension. And then the Sphere is like, bro, what? Nah. It's basically this. It is a very like trippy, geometrical, thought experiment. It was entertaining. It was the right length. It was short and it was the right length. I would recommend it if you like satire and if you like very abstract literature. And then last book I read in the month of September is this one, The Formidable Miss Cassidy, by Mayan Boy. And it was lovely. It was truly, truly lovely. Premises are, there's Miss Cassidy, who is a governess in Victorian time, from Scotland, or maybe from Ireland, that goes to Singapore because she answered an advertisement from a British family that lives in Singapore, where the mother and I think 5 of the 6 children are dead of a epidemic, of a fever, and then there's just the dad and the eldest daughter, and she goes there to be governess to this eldest daughter. It is really like Nanny McPhee vibe of this governess that seems to have weird magical powers and insight, comes and just makes everybody a better person by being there. It's not as simple as that. It's much more complex. It's much more interesting and layered. There's a lot of revelations throughout the book, and there's a big exploration of, again, Singaporean, Malaysian, Hindi, and East Asian folklore on top of Celtic folklore, and there's this very big blend of all these different types of folklore that get explored so beautifully and so lovingly, while still being the background to a very compelling narrative and a very compelling characterization. Really, really, really recommend. Yes, it's just a great fantasy historical novel. If you're into fantasy historical novels, this is a great one. This is truly a great one. So yeah, that was the last book I read in September. I am just gonna sign off. I don't wanna faff anymore because I need to edit this video as well, and I don't have enough time to do anything this week. Yes, that's what I read in September. Have a good one. See you next time.